This is way better than we thought, as the Colorado Avalanche are primed for years of cup dominance heading into the next few seasons as we take a look at their current roster, the benefits of it, how well they're locked up for the many seasons to come, and some recent reports that stirred up a bit of drama in the Colorado Avalanche community. All this and a bit more on this episode of Avs Digest. What is up, Avs Nation? This is your number one stop shop for all of your Avs news, and I just want to thank you all for the recent support we've gotten on this channel. Let's keep it going. I love to see our community grow, and if you haven't subscribed already, kindly decimate the subscribe button just below this video, and let's just get on with it already. But this is really the report that I wanted to talk about the most. This is the report that basically said that Martin Necas is reportedly not overly thrilled with his experience in Colorado. And I just kind of want to take a bit of time to denounce this report in general. This has not been corroborated at all by more than one guy. It's actually been denounced by several local reporters actually close to the Avalanche. And really, I don't think there's any water to this whatsoever. But it led me onto this decision and onto this idea in general of talking about just how good the Avalanche are set up for the next few years, really. I mean, you have their entire top six locked up for the next 2 years. Lehkonen actually expires at the end of those 2 years, but as we saw, even with Artturi Lehkonen, the Avs are great at bringing in players for cheap and having them be amazingly productive and finding great parts of their game. We saw this with Jonathan Drouin as well, so I'm not worried about the Avs whatsoever. You look at this entire offensive roster, and it's basically locked up for a while. The center depth is beautifully disgusting in the best way possible. You love it in every sense of the word. But let's really take a look at another argument that I really saw, and that was that came from Mike Bartner. Now, I like Mike Bartner. I think Mike Bartner is a great content creator. I like a lot of his takes. But this one was a bit of a head scratcher to me. And that it was basically kind of criticizing the point that for some reason, the Avalanche are deciding to pay Charlie Coyle and Brock Nelson the equivalent to Rantanen's salary. And yeah, what's the issue with this? The Avalanche have decided to basically spread out their depth and not be a one-line team, which was the common argument from everybody, including Mike Bartner. And then now that they have the depth, it's somehow wrong. You just can't win in some situations. But this was an interesting discussion to me because really you look at what the Avalanche's trade got them. And remember, Jack Drury came over with Martin Necas. And instead, they also were able to sign Brock Nelson for that $7.5 million contract because they didn't pay Mikko Rantanen a lot of money. And it's the same with having Charlie Coyle on the books. They were able to literally have their entire bottom nine center depth because they didn't sign Mikko Rantanen again. And really, that's the sacrifice the Avs made. And I think it's going to prove to be a great one as time moves on. You look, the entire top six is locked up. The top pairing for the Colorado Avalanche is locked up. The goaltending for the Avs is locked up. I mean, they have Blackwood signed up for the next 5 years, Wedgwood for this entire season. And then they have Ilya Nabokov, the Avalanche's best goalie prospect, coming over after that. So really, you're not worried at all about the major pieces of this Avs roster now that Brock Nelson has been signed up. Now, while yes, the Avalanche are against the cap and there are surgery that needs to be done, but it's mainly on the defense. You look at this power play and it has all the pieces to be great and you love what it could potentially become. Like I said, the defense definitely needs some work, and there are some guys I think you could absolutely move out. Namely, I think one of Sam Girard and Josh Manson will not be here by the time the season begins, which is unfortunate because I like what both of those players bring, but their weaknesses are a little too pronounced. Now, I think that in general, the Avalanche have set themselves up in such an amazing position going forward that you're only looking at perimeter players from now on and what they can offer the Avs. Another take that I heard that was quite interesting was, for some reason, talking about how the Avs need to clear cap space. And for some reason, it was on the offense. Now, if I'm looking at any one offensive player and I'm saying, yeah, this is where you can move off cap, it's Charlie Coyle. I mean, Charlie Coyle is making 5.2 million. This is really the trade that I don't like from CMAC. Now, I like Charlie Coyle, but at 5.2, I don't know how Chris McFarland was not able to get salary retained from Boston. I think that's a big blunder on his part. But really, that's the only glaring contract. I heard several talking heads basically mention that because Martin Necas is unhappy, that they need to move on from his contract. And it's so much money, which no, it is not. Martin Necas is on a fantastic contract for the Colorado Avalanche. And in fact, when you're looking at a team that is so cap crunched, a contract at 6.5 million that is a 70 to 80 point winger is the best value you can possibly get on a cap crunch team like the Colorado Avalanche. I don't understand where this argument came that the solution to the Avalanche's cap problems is moving out a great contract player like Martin Necas. And if you look at other contracts on the Avs, I mean, Valeri Nichushkin's been a controversial player, but his contract is great because he's like a 70-point power forward potential of a human being when he's at his best, and he's one of the best power forwards in the league when he's at his best. That is an amazing value contract at 6.25. You look at Arturi Lehkonen making under 4.5 million. That is amazing. You look at Miles Wood and you say, yikes, let's move off of that contract as soon as possible. And then you look at Jack Drury, an awesome fourth line center making under $1.5 million. Also awesome. Really, the only blunders you have here are Charlie Coyle making as much money as he does and Miles Wood just existing on this roster in general. That is really the only work you have to do. And really, if you look at the lineup, okay, a fourth line wing, that's not hard to move. And it just brings me back to this defense. The defense is really what's eating up a lot of your salary. And you look at teams like Florida, the Florida Panthers, who are consistently good at getting players in and getting them on cheap contracts and having them perform amazingly on defense. You look at players like Nate Schmidt right now in the Cup final for the Florida Panthers, and he's playing awesome. And you look at what the Avs were doing up to when they won their Cup. Josh Manson was brought in, cheap contract, played well, and unfortunately, then they signed him to a lot of money. The Avalanche should have done what the Panthers did with Brandon Montour, and that's let him go, and then he signed an outrageous amount of money in Seattle. And unfortunately, that's an albatross contract now. That is what the Avs need to get back to doing. It is a simple fix. They just need to focus their analytical department on finding good defensive replacements. And that's what you spend all of your assets on now, instead of throwing assets into a black hole for a second-line center. The Avs are done throwing assets at a wall and can now focus it on their perimeter players. And that is just such a breath of relief to get to that point in their season. And in this era, I mean, really looking realistically at the Colorado Avalanche, their Cup run really started in 2020. And you look at how much years they have left, I would put it towards the end of Brock Nelson's contract. So in 2029, basically, that's 9 years of a Cup contention window, and that is fantastic. By then, Nathan MacKinnon is probably old at that point. He's about 33, I believe. And will he be as effective of a player by then? I really don't think so, and I hate to say it. The Avalanche are coming to the end of their current dominance era, but they're going to go out with a bang, and with my firm belief, they're going to win another Cup. This has been Avalanche Digest. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Avalanche Digest. Stay cool, Avs Nation. Let's keep growing this community. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.